Everyone stood very still when Mama Kemi dropped the brown envelope on the dusty ground. It did not make a loud sound, but the silence it created was heavy. The evening breeze stopped playing with the mango leaves. Even the generator across the street coughed once and went quiet. Inside the envelope was the money. The money everyone had been saving. The money everyone said they could not touch. Mama Kemi looked around the small community hall in Ajigona Heights, her eyes shining with tears that refused to fall. Her voice shook as she spoke. "You all said this year is the year of saving," she said slowly. "You said nobody should spend carelessly. You said emergencies should wait." She bent down, picked up the envelope, and held it up. "So tell me," she continued, louder now, "is my son's life not an emergency?" No one answered. Chairs creaked. Someone cleared their throat. A ceiling fan turned slowly above them, pushing warm air around. This was the moment everyone would remember later. This was the moment people would whisper about and say, "That was when everything changed." Mama Kemi turned toward the door, her wrapper brushing the floor. "Watch this first," she said softly, her voice full of pain and strength at the same time. "Then you will understand what saving really means." She stepped outside, and the door closed behind her with a dull sound. Inside the hall, nobody moved. And that was how it began. 3 months earlier, Ajigona Heights was full of excitement. The year had just started, and everyone had a new idea in their hearts. "This year, we must save money," people said. They said it in the barber shop. They said it in the market. They said it after church on Sundays and after mosque prayers on Fridays. Fuel prices had gone up. Food cost more. School fees were waiting like a hungry dog. Everyone was tired of borrowing and begging. So when Mr. Connor, the community secretary, stood up during a town meeting and shared an idea, people clapped. "Let us start a community savings group," he said. "Modern style. Transparent. Monthly contributions. No excuses." He called it the Smart Future Plan. Every adult who joined would contribute the same amount every month. The money would stay in a joint account. It was for emergencies, business support, school fees, or anything the group agreed on. But one rule, Mr. Connor added, raising his finger. "No emotional spending. We must be strict." People nodded. They were tired of being soft. Mama Kemi joined too. She sold food by the roadside, rice, beans, fried plantain. She woke up before the sun and slept after it. Her only son, Sola, was her whole world. Saving was not easy for her, but she believed it was the right thing. "If I save today," she often told Sola, "tomorrow will smile at us." Sola was 12 years old, bright and curious. He loved fixing broken radios and phones. Sometimes, neighbors brought him old gadgets, and he made them work again. "This boy will be an engineer," Mama Kemi would say proudly. Life in Ajigona Heights moved with its usual rhythm. High moments came when Mrs. Aisha used her savings to add a small freezer to her shop. When Mr. Obi paid his daughter's school fees without borrowing. People smiled more. They felt proud. Low moments came too, when Mama Kemi had to walk past roasted corn sellers because she needed to save her money. When she skipped buying new sandals and repaired the old ones again. "This year is for discipline," she told herself. Then one afternoon, everything shook. Sola did not come home from school. At first, Mama Kemi was not worried. Sometimes he stayed back to help his teacher or play football. But when the sun began to sink and the sky turned orange, fear knocked on her chest. She asked around. "No, we did not see him," the neighbors said. Finally, a boy ran up to her, breathing hard. "Auntie Kemi." Sola fell near the main road. A car hit him. The world spun. At the hospital, the doctor spoke calmly, but his words were heavy. He needs surgery, he said. And it must be done fast. Mama Kemi's hands trembled. How much? She asked. The amount was more than everything she had saved alone. Her mind flew to the smart future plan. This is an emergency, she told herself. This is what the money is for. That night, she did not sleep. The next morning, she went to the community leaders. They listened. They nodded. They looked at papers and phones. Then Mr. Connor spoke. The rules are clear, he said gently. We must vote. And the funds are meant for long-term plans. But this is life, Mama Kemi cried. My son is lying on a hospital bed. Some people avoided her eyes. Mrs. Aisha whispered, we are all struggling too. Someone else said, if we break the rules now, the plan will fail. Mama Kemi went home with a heavy heart. Days passed. Sola lay quietly in the hospital, machines humming softly beside him. Mama Kemi sat by his bed, holding his hand, counting every breath. She sold her cooking pot. She borrowed small money. It was not enough. Finally, a meeting was called at the community hall. That evening, the evening of the envelope, everyone gathered. Mama Kemi stood before them. And now, as the door closed behind her and her words hung in the air, the room felt different. Outside, an ambulance siren wailed in the distance. Inside, Mr. Connor slowly stood up. What did she mean by that? Someone whispered. Before anyone could answer, the hall door burst open again. A young nurse rushed in, her face tight with urgency. Who is Mama Kemi here? She asked. Silence fell like a stone. The nurse swallowed. Please, she said, you need to come now. And in that moment, everyone understood that saving money was no longer just an idea, it was a test they might already be failing. Mama Kemi did not remember how she ran back to the hospital. Later, people would say they saw her wrapper flying behind her like it had wings. Others said her slippers broke halfway, but she did not stop. All Mama Kemi remembered was her heart beating so loud it hurt her ears. When she reached the hospital, the nurse was already waiting. Come, the nurse said quickly. Mama Kemi followed her down a long hallway that smelled of medicine and soap. The lights were bright, too bright. She blinked hard. They stopped in front of a small room. The doctor stood there, his face calm but serious. Your son is still alive, he said gently. Mama Kemi's knees almost gave way. She held the wall. But, the doctor continued, we cannot wait any longer. If the surgery does not happen tonight, the risk becomes very high. Mama Kemi nodded again and again. I understand, she said. Please. Do it. The doctor hesitated. There is still the matter of payment, he said. Mama Kemi felt the weight return to her chest. I will get it, she said quickly. I promise. She turned and walked out of the room, her hands shaking. Outside the hospital, night had fallen. Street lights flickered. Cars passed, their headlights cutting through the darkness. Mama Kemi stood there, alone. Then she remembered the envelope. The brown envelope she had dropped in the community hall. The money everyone had saved together. She had taken it without permission. At first, she had felt guilty. Her hands had shaken as she held it. But when she remembered Sola's small body on the hospital bed, the guilt turned into fire. If they won't help me, she thought, I will help myself. She took a deep breath and started walking back toward Ajigono Heights. Inside the community hall, nobody had moved since the nurse left. People looked at one another, their faces full of questions. Mr. Connor sat down slowly. This is not how we planned it, he said. Mrs. Aisha wiped her eyes. But can we really say we did nothing wrong? She asked softly. No one answered her. Outside, the night grew quiet. Mama Kemi reached her small room and locked the door behind her. She placed the envelope on the table and opened it. The money stared back at her. Neatly arranged. Clean. Full of hope and trust. Her hands trembled again. She sat down on the bed and held her head. "I will return it," she whispered. "I will return everything." She stood up, tied her wrapper tightly, and stepped back into the night. At the hospital, time moved slowly. Sola lay still, his chest rising and falling softly. Mama Kemi sat beside him, holding his hand. She paid the cashier with shaking fingers. The nurse nodded. "We will prepare him now." As they rode Sola away, Mama Kemi followed until the doors closed. She sat down on a plastic chair and waited. Minutes felt like hours. She prayed. She remembered Sola's laughter. She remembered the day he fixed an old radio and danced around the room when it worked. Finally, the doctor came out. "The surgery was successful," he said. Mama Kemi covered her mouth and cried. "Thank you," she whispered again and again. The doctor smiled gently. "He is strong. He will need time, but he will recover." Relief washed over her like rain after a long drought. But the relief did not last long. As she sat there, her phone buzzed. One message. Then another. Then many more. She opened one. "Where is the money?" Her heart dropped. Back in Ajigonal Heights, the truth had spread like wildfire. Someone had gone to check the savings account online. The balance was almost empty. People gathered outside Mama Kemi's room. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were silent. Mr. Connor stood in front, his face tight. "This is serious," he said. "This money belongs to everyone." "She stole it," someone shouted. "But her child was dying," another voice replied. Voices rose. Tempers flared. By morning, the whole community was talking. When Mama Kemi returned home the next day, tired but hopeful, she saw the crowd. Her steps slowed. People turned to look at her. She stood tall, even though her legs felt weak. "Yes," she said before anyone could speak. "I took the money." Gasps filled the air. "I took it to save my son's life," she continued. "And I will return it. Every naira." Mr. Connor stepped forward. "This is bigger than promises," he said. "Trust has been broken." Mama Kemi nodded. "I know," she said quietly. "But if you had been in my place, what would you have done?" Silence fell again. From the back of the crowd, a young voice spoke. It was Sola's friend, Tond. "Auntie Kemi told us saving is for tomorrow," he said. But Sola needed today. The words hung in the air. That evening, the community called another meeting. This time, everyone came, not just to judge, but to think. Mama Kemi stood before them once more, tired but honest. "I will work," she said. "Day and night. I will sell everything I have. I will pay it back." Mrs. Aisha stood up slowly. "What if," she said, "saving money is not just about keeping it, but knowing when to use it?" Mamas filled the hall. Mr. Connor looked around, uncertain. Before anyone could respond, the door opened again. A hospital staff member walked in, holding a form. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, "but there is something you all need to know about Sola's condition." Mama Kemi's heart jumped. "What is it?" she asked. The nurse took a breath. "He will recover," she said, "but the road ahead will change everything." And in that moment, everyone realized that the hardest part of the story had not even begun yet. The hall was so quiet that night that people could hear the ticking of Mr. Connor's wristwatch. Mama Kemi stood in the middle, holding her hands together. Her eyes were tired, but they were strong. She had cried all the tears she had. Now, she was ready to listen. The hospital staff member cleared her throat. Sola will walk again, she said gently. But his brain was affected by the accident. He will need therapy, learning support, and time. He may not return to school the same way he was before. A soft sound escaped Mama Kemi's mouth. Not a cry. Not a scream. Just a deep breath filled with mixed pain and relief. Alive. That was what mattered. The nurse continued, recovery will cost money, but more than that, it will need patience and support. She left the hall quietly. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Mr. Obi stood up. When we started this savings plan, he said slowly, we said it was for the future. He looked around the room. But today showed us something. The future is useless if we destroy the present. People nodded. Mrs. Aisha stood next. I was angry, she admitted. I thought only of my shop, my freezer, my plans. But when I imagined my child on that hospital bed, I understood Mama Kemi. Tears rolled down her cheeks. One by one, voices rose, not shouting, but speaking truth. We were too hard. We forgot compassion. We followed rules but forgot people. Mr. Connell sat down heavily. His shoulders dropped. I thought leadership meant being strict, he said. But maybe leadership also means knowing when rules must bend. He looked at Mama Kemi. We failed you. Mama Kemi shook her head. No, she said softly. I broke trust. I know that. She lifted her chin. But I would do it again if it meant my son would live. Nobody argued. That night, the Smart Future Plan changed. The community voted, not in anger, but in understanding. The money Mama Kemi took would no longer be called stolen. It would be called used. They agreed she would repay slowly, without pressure. They also created something new, a small emergency fund, separate from savings. For moments like this, Mr. Obi said. Everyone agreed. Life did not suddenly become easy. Mama Kemi worked harder than ever. In the mornings, she cooked. In the evenings, she washed clothes for neighbors. On weekends, she cleaned offices. Sometimes her body ached so much she wanted to stop. But then she would look at Sola. Sola, who now walked slowly with effort. Sola, who struggled to remember things he once knew easily. Sola, who smiled every time his mother entered the room. High moments came again. The first day Sola stood without help, the whole compound clapped. The day he fixed a broken radio again, slowly, carefully, Mama Kemi laughed until she cried. Low moments came too. Days when Sola got tired easily. Days when Mama Kemi worried about money and the future. But this time, she was not alone. Mrs. Aisha often brought food. Mr. Obi helped with transport to therapy sessions. Even Mr. Connor came by sometimes, sitting quietly, learning more than speaking. One evening, months later, the community gathered again. Not for a problem, but for a celebration. Sola stood in front of them, holding a small microphone with shaking hands. Thank you, he said slowly. My mommy taught me about saving money. People smiled. But now, he continued, I know saving is not just keeping money. It is keeping people. Applause filled the air. Mama Kemi wiped her eyes. By the end of the year, Ajigono Heights was different. People still saved money. But they also saved kindness. They still planned for tomorrow. But they learned not to ignore today. And whenever someone said, everyone wants to save money this year, someone else would reply with a knowing smile. But watch this first. Because they had learned the lesson together. That money can wait. But life cannot.